In 1977, two very strange sounds were recorded in the ocean. Their frequency was very low while the amplitude was very high. They were recorded by the American Oceanic Administration, NOAA, but the surprising thing is that these same sounds were also recorded 5,000 kilometers away on other recorders. Calculations showed the sounds came from a remote area deep in the South Pacific. At that time, these sounds were named the Bloop, and research began on them to find out what these scary sounds actually were. It seemed these sounds came from something massive, but no creature that big was known to live there. For many years, it was believed that beneath this part of the ocean lived a very large sea creature. But after 2012, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration changed its stance and said that the sounds recorded in 1977 were generated by glacial movements. That is, the movement of ice. But what the truth really is, no one has been able to find out yet. The exact spot where these sounds came from is now home to something even stranger. At this point in the South Pacific Ocean, there is a part of the ocean surrounded by water on all four sides for thousands of miles. No land anywhere. It is also called Point Nemo, or the oceanic pole of inaccessibility. The nearest piece of land from here is about 2,688 kilometers away, and that land is not very useful because it's the South Pole, Antarctica. This is why Point Nemo is considered the most desolate and dangerous place in the world. It's so isolated that the closest humans to it aren't on land. They're astronauts aboard the International Space Station, which passes more than 400 kilometers above Point Nemo, once or twice a day. Despite being cut off from the world, Point Nemo hides billions of dollars worth of human inventions. Yes, Point Nemo is the graveyard of broken satellites, spacecraft, and rocket parts. But the question is, where were satellites dropped before Point Nemo was discovered? Why do they need to be dropped? And most importantly, how are satellites brought to Point Nemo? Point Nemo covers an area of about 220 million square kilometers in the South Pacific Ocean. This area is so large that even Russia, the biggest country in the world, could fit inside it, and there would still be enough room left for 5 countries the size of Egypt. This massive area is lifeless. Even sea creatures struggle to survive in its harsh conditions. Point Nemo lies in a very remote and deep region of the South Pacific Ocean, where the water temperature is cold and nutrients are nearly absent. Ocean currents in this area circulate in a way that prevents nutrient-rich water from entering, leading to a severe shortage of nutrients. And where nutrients are scarce, plankton and other microscopic organisms, the foundation of the food chain, are also scarce. The depth of the ocean here is approximately 3,700 meters or 12,100 feet. It's impossible for sunlight to reach such depths, so photosynthesis cannot occur. This means that if there is any sea life here, it would consist only of deep-sea organisms such as squids, bioluminescent fish, and other creatures that can survive in extreme conditions. In 1992, for the first time, a Canadian engineer discovered Point Nemo by performing complex mathematical calculations. 9 years later, in 2001, it was first used by the Russian Space Agency. Because Point Nemo lies in international waters, that is, it belongs to no country. Different space agencies around the world don't need permission from anyone to drop their space debris here. On March 23, 2001, 15 years after the launch of the Russian space station Mir, it had reached the end of its operational life. That's when the Russian Space Agency deorbited it, meaning they guided it out of Earth's orbit and dropped it into Point Nemo. After Mir, other space agencies also found this place ideal, and now they use it for dumping spacecraft as well. In the last 23 years, this graveyard has been filling up, and today there are more than 260 spacecraft lying beneath Point Nemo. And soon the International Space Station will also end up there, because according to NASA, the ISS's lifespan ends around 2030. Before that, it will be decommissioned. Satellites and spacecraft are built with extreme precision, but even after spending millions of dollars, they are not meant to last forever. Just like every product has an expiry date, space objects have one too. And once that expires, it becomes very important to crash them in a controlled way. If this isn't done, The spacecraft may go out of control and fall unpredictably from orbit at any time. In 1978, a problem occurred with a Soviet satellite named Cosmos 954. It lost contact with its base station. The satellite remained in orbit for a while out of control, but after several months, it re-entered Earth's atmosphere. What was feared happened. It made an uncontrolled entry, but its biggest danger wasn't just being out of control. It had a nuclear reactor inside that powered it. The satellite burned up in the sky, but radioactive material spread across northern Canada. After that, a massive cleanup operation was launched, whose only purpose was to find and remove radioactive debris. This was the largest operation of its kind and was named Operation Morning Light. Fortunately, no one was harmed, but after this incident, the world saw the potential dangers of nuclear-powered satellites. In addition, in 1997, a woman named Lottie Williams from Oklahoma was walking in a park when something suddenly fell on her shoulder. It turned out to be a piece of the Delta II rocket that had broken apart upon re-entering the atmosphere miles away. Lottie Williams wasn't injured, but the incident opened everyone's eyes. Such events should never happen again. That's why space objects are now dropped into remote parts of the ocean. Before Point Nemo was discovered, this work was done in other remote areas of the Pacific Ocean or uninhabited parts of the Earth. Whenever a satellite or spacecraft needs to be crashed, it's first removed from orbit using thrusters. Even after being removed from orbit, it continues circling Earth for several months before gradually descending. Engineers carefully calculate when, where, and at what angle to activate the thrusters. Before entering Earth's atmosphere, the thrusters are fired again to direct it toward Point Nemo. Remember, because there's no air in space, there's no friction, so objects move freely. Satellites in orbit move at incredible speeds, about 15,000 kilometers per hour. When they re-enter Earth's atmosphere at that speed, friction heats them to nearly 3,000 degrees Celsius, turning them into blazing fireballs. Most of the metal melts and burns away before reaching the ground. But sometimes a few heavy parts survive re-entry and crash back to Earth. And if they ever landed in a populated area, the results could be disastrous. That's why Point Nemo, with its 220 million square kilometers of emptiness, is the perfect dumping ground, far from any human life. The name Nemo comes from Latin, meaning no one, because no humans or even sea creatures live there. Ships also avoid this region since help would be almost impossible to get in an emergency. If you were stranded at Point Nemo, it could take nearly 2 weeks for a rescue ship to reach you. Even the world's most advanced helicopters can't cover that distance without refueling. And even if they could, they'd have no fuel left for the return trip. Maybe one day scientists will finally reach Point Nemo and uncover the truth behind those mysterious sounds recorded back in 1977. Thanks for watching, and for all your amazing comments. See you in the next video.